I gave my physical TBR some love this February and ended up reading 10 books. I'm gonna go through the stack and let you know why you should or maybe shouldn't read these books because reading is subjective. I Medusa was the last book I read in February and I easily rated this book 5 stars. This is an incredible reimagining of Medusa and it emotionally devastated me. You should read this new adult fantasy if you love Greek mythology retellings and books that make you sob. You maybe shouldn't if you don't like naive female main characters who make many mistakes. Medusa is 17. And or if you are very, very triggered by SA. Half City was such a fun read. This felt like a hodgepodge of so many things that I love in a dark fantasy romance. You should read this book if you love a forbidden romance, mystery, and an academy setting. You maybe shouldn't if you don't like when the female main character acts like a bad friend at times. I had really high expectations for And Now Back to You because First Time Caller was one of my favorite reads of 2025. And while this wasn't a 5-star read for me, I still really liked this book and ate it up. You should read this book if you love feel-good romances with nerdy main characters. Maybe shouldn't if you don't like tropey romance books. And Arcane Inheritance single-handedly got me through 2 3-hour car rides, so I highly recommend the audiobook. You should read this new adult fantasy if you love a mystery-packed story that is set in an academy. This maybe shouldn't read this if you want a fully explored, super in-depth magic system. I love a good redemption arc, and I love the one that we got for Marina in Ache of Chaos. You should read this if you love a revenge dark fantasy romance. Maybe shouldn't if you really just didn't vibe with the first 2 books in the series because they are interconnected. I am a huge Catherine Cowles fan, so it's no surprise that I ate up my arc of Across the Vanishing Sky. You should read this if you love small town romantic suspense. Maybe shouldn't if you don't like insta love and lust or tropey romance books. Heart's Gambit was such a unique YA romantic fantasy debut. You should read this if you like a blend between fantastical elements and real-time periods in US history. You maybe shouldn't if you don't like time travel or insta love. Midnight in the Celestial was such a bingeable dark fantasy romance debut and had me creeped out at multiple moments. You should read this if you like YA dark fantasy with a combination of mystery, romance, suspense, and horror. You maybe shouldn't read this if you don't like when authors tie up loose ends and plot points in the epilogue. Unfortunately, Janine O'Reilly books are just not for me. I DNF'd her Infatuated Fae series after book 2 and really wanted to give her newest release, Secret in the Garden, a try. It just turns out her writing style isn't for me. Should read this. If it is for you, you maybe shouldn't if it's not for you. I'm really torn on my feelings about Awakening of the Starborn. This is a debut, dark, epic romantic fantasy, and so many aspects of the story felt really unique, but I was really overwhelmed by the world building and the introduction of so many characters that it did overshadow the rest of my reading experience. You should read this if you like gritty, emotionally intense romantasy books. You maybe shouldn't if you don't like jam-packed world building and a hypocritical female main character.